Jack Canfield's Breakthroughs to Success home study course now continues. Enjoy.
I'm going to teach you something called the 5-minute phobia cure. Some of you have fears that are like beyond anxiety. Any of you have any phobias? Fear of flying, fear of spiders, fear of heights, fear of whatever? Okay. On pages 203 to 204, you'll find this protocol, if you will. And I learned this from Roger Callahan, who's a psychologist who lives in Palm Springs. And Roger had a secretary who was phobic about water. And Roger likes to hang out by his pool and dictate. And obviously she didn't like to come out there because she was afraid of the water. So he went on a study to figure out how he could cure her of her phobia. And in the process of that search, that quest, he unearthed some information about meridians, which have to do with acupuncture flows, and acupressure points you can tap that deal with the fear meridian, etc. And over time, he evolved a cure, if you will, of phobias that cures 99.4% of all phobias based on clinical research in 5 minutes or less. Would that be useful to know? Yeah. And it also works with anxieties, and it works with any anxiety-related habits like smoking cigarettes, over drinking, overeating, because they're all ways of coping with your anxiety. When the anxiety is not there, then the need to do that goes away. So the way this works is, how many of you ever had your computer crash? How many of you have ever had a virus in your computer? Yeah, it's not fun, is it? The virus goes in and it messes with the programming, and then you can't get the result you normally get. And the way this cure works is this. You have a set of mental processes that go from seeing the stimulus, like spider, airplane, water, snake, ladder, open window, balcony, whatever it is, that sets off a set of mental and brain sequences that end up with a symptom called sweaty palms, can't breathe, hyperventilating, pulling back, tense, nauseous, whatever it might be. So we're going to go in and literally put a virus in that program so it doesn't go there anymore. If any of you ever watched those, I love it when they take a whole gymnasium, spend 10 days putting dominoes all around, and then they hit one and they just go, you know, and the whole thing lasts about a minute and a half. But if they wanted to stop that, all they have to do is take out 3 dominoes, and all of a sudden it hits and there's no domino there and the whole thing's over. And that's the same thing here. That's how this works. We interrupt the pattern. And how this works is we'll first do the psychological reversal technique. Remember that, where we tap our left hand? So if anyone's reversed, this will unreverse them, and therefore the protocol works. And remember, how you can test someone for reversal is to have them say what? I totally and unconditionally love and accept myself just the way I am. Their arm should test stronger when we're doing the kinesiology demonstration. If you say, I totally and unconditionally love and accept myself just the way I am. And if you're working with a phobia, I totally and unconditionally love myself even though I have a fear of snakes. You know, the idea is we always want to unconditionally love and accept ourselves. And to the level that we don't, then we create interference in the system that's supposed to be aligned moving forward. And so after we make sure they're not reversed, then we have the person. I'm going to have you, this can be self-administered. You're all going to do this to yourself. You won't pick anything. It doesn't have to be a phobia. It can just be some fear you have about acting on your vision or whatever. I do this with test anxiety with kids in school. We've had a number of nurses take the training who are the people that put them in the CAT scans. People are claustrophobic. Do this phobia cure, 5 minutes later, in they go, no problem. I was doing this with Inga, my wife. She has a fear of, or had a fear of cockroaches, cucaracha, and also we fry them up and eat them. No, so and then also a claustrophobic fear. We were over in Tuscany on our honeymoon, and I shared with her a story about a woman who had been locked in the trunk of her car with her daughter as part of a kidnapping, where they were using that as a way of holding them ransom while the president of the bank opened the vault so they wouldn't kill the kid and the wife. And I was sharing that with her, and she just kind of freaked out. And then later we were in Assisi. Thank you. I'm trying to remember the name of the church. San Damiano. It's the little church, not the big San Francisco, but the small adobe type that he built for his monastery. If any of you saw Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, they were all singing, you know, stone by stone, build your dreams up slowly, that little place. And there's only one word written in that entire place, it's just silencio. And you go in there and the silence and the energy is just palpable, you can feel it. But we were very lucky, it was raining that day. And thunderstorms kind of coming and going, and all of a sudden there was very few people in there because no one was coming down. It's down the hill from Assisi, and you have to walk down. And so we were kind of protected for a bit, and we decided we would meditate in the chapel. And we both had amazing experiences. And then you had this huge release occur. And we had done a phobia cure earlier. I'd put her in the trunk of our car and pretended to walk away. You know, I don't think it was her favorite experience, but it didn't become this I couldn't breathe thing anymore. So this stuff works. We had a woman come to the training once who had to take a train because she couldn't fly, and she flew home. We had a woman in St. Louis, couldn't go across a bridge because she could only live on one side of the Mississippi River. And on noon, on a break, she drove her rental car back and forth across the bridge 3 or 4 times. So it's very powerful, works. So anyway, what we're going to do is you have the person imagine the stimulus. You'll be imagining whatever this thing is that scares you, or you scare yourself with. And then I'm going to have you tap. If you'll reach up under your eyes, you'll notice there's a bone where the socket is, but if you look a little lower, there's this thing that creates your cheekbone. And there's a ridge right there. Can you all find that ridge? Okay, we're going to tap on that ridge. Don't do it now, but we'll tap on that ridge. And you tap pretty vigorously, 35 times. Okay? On that ridge, on the bone. Yeah. You all got what I'm talking about? If you put your fingers right up into the eye socket, don't push too hard there. Okay? And you just come down a little bit, you'll find a place where the bone starts to come out a little more. Right on that ridge, right in that place between the eye socket and that bone coming out, there's a point there. And we're going to stimulate that by tapping it. While you keep thinking of the thing that you're afraid of. You keep imagining it. Okay? And then we're going to, if you take your hand and you put your hand, take your right hand, go in between the ring finger and the little finger, and if you go up onto the back of the hand, you'll see there's a ridge there in between the tendons. You all see that? Or feel that? And we're going to actually do some tapping there. See, right here. On the back of the hand, there's a ridge, like there's little valleys between the bones and the tendons. And we're going to tap right in there. Y'all got that? Okay, good. So that's another place you'll need to know. And while you're tapping that, we're going to be doing some things with your eyes. And this is the part where we just like blow the program out. And I'll be asking you as you're doing that to be looking down to the left, and then your eyes will come back to the middle, down to the right, back to the middle. Then we'll look up left, back to the middle, up right, back to the middle. And then we'll go around in a circle one way, and we'll go around in a circle the other way. Okay? Then I'll ask you to count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, while you're still tapping. And then we'll hum a little song together. Usually about that level, about all you can come up with is things like Mary Had a Little Lamb or Happy Birthday, or, you know, I mean, if you can do Somewhere Over the Rainbow, go for it, but doesn't matter. We're activating 2 different hemispheres of the brain. Does that make sense? Okay. So as we're doing that, still tapping, and then we'll stop. We'll put our hands down, and I'll just ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is that fear level present? We'll actually start with that, and then we'll do it at this point. It usually goes down to 0. Sometimes it goes to 3 or 2 or 1. Sometimes it can be a little higher. Sometimes you have to repeat this 2 or 3 times to get all the way down to 0. And then I'll have you tap on that reversal point while you say, I totally and unconditionally love myself even though I have a fear of spiders, snakes, heights, whatever it might be. Okay? And then we'll test it on a scale of 1 to 10 again. And that's it. Now there's another point. We can find this. You can add this in if you want. It's called the bra point. For women, if you look where your bra strap is, and you go back there, and for men, you can just kind of go from like, would be right where your muscle line would be. You know, those pecs we all want to have that only a few of us like Chaz have. You know, right across there. And if you dig around, you'll find a part that's sore. Can you find that? Okay, you can stimulate that point too. You can do that in between tapping the eyes and tapping here. So I'll add that in. It's just one other place to kind of keep it moving. And that's it. So I can do that to somebody, or I can do it to myself. So actually, let me demonstrate with someone on the stage up here. Is there anyone who would like to have me work with yours and get rid of it? Let me just see who we got here. Maybe I haven't had up here yet. How about you? Yeah, come on up. You're all going to get this. It's all going to work for all of you. Don't need me to. I just want to demonstrate it real quickly. So, Melissa, you can, or you don't have to, but if you want to, you can tell us what your fear is about. Just
fear of heights.
Fear of heights. Okay, good. And where does that show up? When do you notice it?
On a roller coaster, like on the top of the hill.
On a roller coaster on top of the hill? Okay. So I want you to close your eyes. And first, we're just going to test you for psychological reversal here. I want you to say, I totally and unconditionally love myself just the way I am.
I totally and unconditionally love myself just the way I am.
And it's good and strong. Okay, good. Now, otherwise, we would tap. We're going to have you all tap just as a security here. Now, I want you, with your eyes closed, to imagine you are someplace high. It could be on the top of the roller coaster. It could be up at the top of the stratosphere here in Vegas about to do the bungee cord jump, whatever it is. Could be at the top of the Empire State Building. But put yourself in one of those kind of places. And I want you to, as much as possible, really be there. The goal would be to get as scared here as you are there. We probably won't reach a 10, but get as close to a 10 as you can, if 10 were the full-scale game of being in that fear place. And when you think you've gotten as far as you can, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how high it is.
About a 7.
About a 7. Okay, good. So what I want you to do is keep imagining being up there, and I'm going to tap under your eyes here. Here we go. Okay, good. I'm going to take your left hand. You keep your eyes closed for a moment. And I want you to keep imagining this thing. And now you're going to open your eyes. But keep imagining being up there, even though your eyes are open. I'm going to tap right here. And I want you to take your eyes down to the left. And then up to the middle. Keep your head straight. Just moving your eyes down to the right. Up to the middle. Bring your eyes up right. Down to the middle and up left. That's good. And now take them in one direction all the way around the circle. Good, and do it again the other way. Good, now I want you to count to 10. Keep imagining the thing you're afraid of and count to 10 out loud.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, and then I want you to hum a little song, anything at all. Good, keep going. Okay, that's great. You put your hand down, close your eyes. Imagine you're up there wherever you were before. And on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me what the level of fear is now.
Like, I can't even imagine being there now. Like a 2?
Maybe a 2, okay? So now I want you to just imagine you're still there and say, I totally and unconditionally love myself, even though I have a fear of heights.
I totally and unconditionally love myself, even though I have a fear of heights.
Very good. Now put yourself back up there again, and on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you now?
A 1?
Yeah, you kind of have to look for it, don't you?
Yeah, it's not there.
Not there. Okay, very good. You can open your eyes. Now, if we were somewhere, like we were in a big, tall skyscraper building, I'd take you all up and have her walk to the edge just to prove to you it's really gone. But it is. Okay, give her a hand. Thank you, Melissa. No, 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 no. Remember, further, faster, with less effort. That's the goal. So, let's everybody get in touch with something that might be a fear, an anxiety, something that you would like to do but are afraid to do. And first, just on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to imagine being where that thing or situation is, so you actually see the thing or hear the sound or whatever it is, like you're in that airplane, it's going down the runway, or some shaking because of some turbulence, or you're there in the woods and there's a snake, or whatever it might be. You're up in front of the room speaking to 10,000 people. And just notice what the level of the fear is. And on a scale of 1 to 10, get as close to a 10 as you can. And then what I'd like you to do is to put up as many fingers as your number is, just so you're kind of declaring it out to the world. 10 fingers for 10, 2 fingers for 2, whatever it might be. Okay, very good. And then put your hands down. Let's open our eyes for just a second. Let's go ahead and tap the psychological reversal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good. Now, close your eyes again. And once more, put yourself wherever that event or stimulus would be. And again, take yourself up as close to a 10 as you can get. And with your eyes still closed, imagining being wherever that is, doing whatever it is, just bring your fingers up under your eyes to that spot that you found before. We're just going to tap there 35 times. You can keep count. Tap pretty vigorously. You want to feel it. Tap all around there. Okay. And then you can open your eyes and find that place on the back of your left hand. And we're going to tap there. And your eyes are open. You're going to look down to the left. Your head's on straight. You're just moving your eyes down to the left, then back to the middle, down to the right, back to the middle, up to the left, down to the middle, up to the right, down to the middle. And move your eyes around in a circle all the way around the periphery, one direction. Take them all the way around slowly, other direction. Very good. And then keep thinking of this thing that you're afraid of, and I want you to count to 10 out loud. Keep tapping there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I want you to keep tapping there and hum a little song. Go ahead. And you can stop tapping. Put your hand down to your side. Let's take your thumbs, find that place we call the bra point. Let's just stimulate that for a few seconds while you continue to focus on this thing that you're afraid of or afraid to do. You can tap it or rub it, either one will work. And then put your arms down and put yourself back in place with that where that stimulus is, and notice on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of fear now? And just for those who still have any residue there, I want to take, and we're going to tap on that place that is the psychological reversal point, the palm, the heel of your left hand rather. Let's just all say out loud, and you fill in the blank at the end with whatever's true for you. I totally and unconditionally love myself, even though I have a fear of. Good. And put your hands down. Imagine once again being there where the stimulus is. And very good. Then on a scale of 1 to 10, see how much present the fear is. What's the level of it now? And again, with your eyes closed, just raise the number of fingers where it is now. And you can open your eyes. How many people had a major reduction? How many people got it down to 1 or 0? Good. Did anyone before we started have a fear of standing up on that stage and looking out at all these people? Good. Why don't you come up here now? Let's go ahead and stand up there and look out and notice what you experience.
Awesome. Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Kind of like, I don't have that. I feel connected to you guys. And,
Yeah.
and I was imagining that I couldn't.
Feel connected now and you were imagining you couldn't. Yeah, now you can. All right, thank you. Here I am. One of the questions that often comes up is, well, how long does that last?
Yeah.
And the answer is as long as it does. And for most people, it's permanent. Occasionally, there might be a little backsliding, very rarely is my experience. If it does, you just do it again. Get rid of it. If you're concerned before you go out to give a talk, just imagine the audience, go ahead and do this, out you go. You get rid of it. I'm going to take a couple questions. We need to get into this next exercise, or we're never going to get out of here on time today. But I'll take a few, if they're related to this, what we just did. So let's start with Wendy over here. Microphone, please.
Can you be feeling if you're doing it? Like, could I be on the top of a roller coaster about to go down to do it? Will it work?
Yes. If you have enough time. You know, I would do it before you even get on the roller coaster. You know, do it before you get on. You know, standing in line. Yeah, absolutely. But if you did it for that today, you probably won't need to. You'll find you're really excited to get on the roller coaster.
I saved it for later.
Or you're saving that one for later. Okay, good. Let's do Corey here.
Mine isn't so much a question, but as a statement. Because
Yes.
I do this work as EFT.
Oh, good.
And one of the things I noticed that you said is when we hum a song, and I've had personal experience with this, he said, hum happy birthday. And happy birthday for one person in this room was a very negative response.
Very good. So add on. Tell us what you would say.
What I would do is go through the process, and if he had, and keep it positive. Sing when the saints come marching in.
Sing a song you love that makes you feel good.
Stay away from the negative thing that might be in your head of your situation.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you,
Thank you.
Corey. Appreciate the input. Ann,
See,
stand up.
can I try?
Can you try what?
Just go in.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Turn around. So you still got a little fear going on in there? Okay, how's this compared to what you thought it would have been even before we did this? Now you're up there and you're looking at everybody, you're still alive. Is that okay?
Yes, it's possible now.
You see, it's possible now. It is possible, you're doing it.
Thank you.
Okay, got it. Eric.
Yeah, I had a
Blue mic.
Hello? Yeah, I had trouble like trying to get into that fear thing.
Mm-hmm.
And cause, well, this is one of the fears, but I don't know if I was well, I guess I'm doing it now, but I couldn't feel the fear in the beginning.
Well, that's okay. Then it may not be there, or just you didn't have it build up. But the next time you find yourself in a fear situation or feeling afraid, just use the technique. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to generate in this environment a real 10 or whatever because it's not really here. Some of us have the ability to scare ourselves a little more easily than others.
Yeah, because like this is a lot easier, but when I was waiting for the like when my hand, I was like about to die. So
Yeah. And how are you now?
now I'm fine, but down there I was freaking out. So
You were able to create the fear. It was just after the exercise.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks. Robbie?
You mentioned that this also works for self-sabotage. I see it on the book there. In other words,
Uh-huh.
what overeating, smoking, that sort. What kind of
Yes.
message do you give yourself? You say, I no longer overeat. Because this is more of a phobia type of thing.
Where's our EFT guy? Ask him, okay? Because this is not something I spend a lot of time becoming the expert on everything to do with. I've not studied with Callahan. I've talked to him on the phone. He sent me his tapes. I read them. I did a home study course. I gave him a testimonial for it because it worked for me. But I've not studied every single aspect of what he does. But one of the ways we sabotage ourselves is scare ourselves that we can't do stuff. But there may be more subtle things in there that I'm not able to tell you right now. We do have about 7 copies of that video back there that you can purchase. That's all we have. Otherwise, you can go online to just type in Roger Callahan plus phobia cure and you'll get his website. And you can order it. There's other people teaching variations of it. If you go on the web and you go to Google and you go to enough sites, there'll be a whole free download of all kinds of protocols and research. And the nice thing about the web, you can pretty much find anything. And even the stuff that they don't want out there for free, most people post it anyway just to be rebellious. So you can find it. Yes.
Can I make an offer?
Sure, please.
I wrote a book on the. Whoa. I'm an author. I wrote a book on the principles of EFT as a teacher's manual.
That's emotional freedom.
Emotional freedom techniques. It's based on Roger Callahan's work through Gary Craig. And I wrote a book, and I have it in a ebook format. I will give it to anyone free if you send me your email and say, Corey, please send me your EFT book.
Okay, Corey, and his last name is England?
England. It's Corey at tappingyoursuccess.com.
Very good, Corey.
Grab my card.
All right. Yes.
Hi, my name is Karen, and I have a question. Will this work for the fear of not being good enough?
Well, I would imagine that if you, and again, Corey is probably more of an expert on this than I am, but I would imagine if you put yourself in a specific situation where you think you're not going to be good enough, so therefore you hold yourself back based on fear, rather than dealing with the overall concept of I'm not good enough. But check in with Corey.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will is the answer, okay? And he can help you do that, and he's going to give you a downloaded free book, and he's got a phone number. If you need more help, he'll help you, okay? All right. I see more hands. What I'm going to do is not take them now. However, if you come up to myself or Corey on the next break, either of us will do, I'm sure, be glad to answer your questions, what we do, you know, what he does specifically in this arena more than I do. All right. So in order to get this last exercise in before lunch, what we're going to do we have, where's my team back there? Lila? Do we have all the toothpicks ready? Yes? We're ready to go? Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to get up and we're going to move into the space in the back of the room. That includes the space around all the places that the table was that Rudy had his stuff on the floor here, back there. And just, you don't need anything but you. And just sit yourself down back there somewhere. And as you're moving back there, the assistants are going to give each of you a packet of toothpicks. Okay? And the purpose of the game is to learn something about yourself. You either will or you won't. It's that simple. And when we play this game, the game needs to be played between you and yourself. And in a moment, I'm going to give you a puzzle to solve. How many of you are good at solving puzzles? How many of you are not so good? You even hear the idea of puzzle and you go, Right. Okay. So we're going to be solving a puzzle. And when you think you have the right answer, you're going to raise your hand. And an assistant will come by, and there's a lot more of you than there are of us, so you need to be patient. And if you've solved it correctly, we will tell you by messing up your puzzle. We'll just mess it up, okay? So we're not going to say yes and nod, because then someone else could look over and see what your solution was. And so if you get the correct solution, we'll just mess it up. We may do it with our foot, we could do it with our hands. And then you just sit and wait. There'll be a second part of the exercise that you can participate in if you're one of the faster puzzle solvers, okay? You may find that you give us a solution that we don't accept. That means it's the wrong answer, start over. And the best way is literally start over, okay? In a moment, I'm going to put a diagram up on the screen there. You're going to have to see it. But before we do that, would everyone open your toothpicks and count to make sure you have 24? Because if you don't have 24, we need to give you an extra one or whatever it is you need, because it won't work without it. All right. Everyone has 24 now? Good. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you to put these into the diagram, and I'll put the diagram up on the screen. If you need to move to see it, you'll just need to move to see it. And Teresa, would you put Ivan's in the form that is up on the screen? And then Ivan, you can do this tactily as well as they can do it visually. And There's the diagram. It's basically 9 squares. So go ahead and create that diagram. Now when you're doing this puzzle, once you've got it set up, and I don't want you to do anything yet, once I tell you what the puzzle is, I want you not to start until I say start. Does everyone hear that? Don't start until I say start. And it works best if you can kind of put yourself in a situation where you're not looking right into someone else's puzzle. Kind of like, you know how if you were the smart kid in class and everyone was always cheating off your paper, and then you start putting your shoulders over the paper so no one can see your answers, the more you can situate yourself like that, the better. Put your legs around it, whatever works for you. What you'll find is if you quote-unquote cheat by looking at someone else's answer, the only person you'll cheat is you out of the experience of learning something that could be more valuable than whatever you think cheating would provide you. And do not start to solve the puzzle until I tell you the instructions. We'll take questions of clarification, and then once I've got all the questions answered, you'll be able to begin, okay? Not yet. All right, so here's the task. The task is to form 2 squares that do not touch by removing and discarding 8 toothpicks. 8. The task is to form 2 squares that do not touch by removing and discarding. Now, some of you are looking at the puzzle. Stop. Look up. Look up. Okay? Don't be solving it yet. Any questions about the instructions? Yes? Question is, can you leave incomplete squares? And the answer is, form 2 squares that do not touch by removing and discarding 8 toothpicks. Any other questions? Yes?
Do they have to be the same size?
Question is, do they have to be the same size? The answer is, form 2 squares that do not touch by removing and discarding 8 toothpicks. Any other questions? No, don't start yet. Don't look at your puzzle. Look up at me. Satyam?
Discarding. That is what the
Discard means to put away somehow. Get rid of.
What is the difference between removing and discarding?
I don't know. You'll have to figure that out.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, Walter.
You have to put the 8 toothpicks back into the puzzle.
Do you have to put the 8 toothpicks back into the puzzle? The answer is form 2 squares that do not touch by removing and discarding 8 toothpicks. Yes, Adolfo. What? Hang on. If you get the solution, you will indicate that by raising your hand, but not until we start the exercise. As soon as you think you have it, we will come by. Do not look at other people who have their hand up. You'll only rob yourself of the experience that's possible for here. Martin.
Does a common corner point mean that they touch?
Does a common corner point mean that they touch? The answer is form 2 squares that do not touch by removing 8 and discarding 8 toothpicks. Any other questions? Good. Quick learners. All right. Go ahead and begin. Here's what we're going to do. The people that have already solved the puzzle know the answer. And they can give you feedback, but this is a very specific technique they're going to give you. If you, in a moment, want feedback, you'll raise your hand. People that have already solved it will come over to you, and there's only one form of feedback they can give. They will applaud when you pick up and discard a correct toothpick. Now, shh. Those of you who are giving feedback, you may not point, you cannot moan, you cannot groan, you cannot say anything, you can't shake your head in disgust. You simply are going to applaud like this. Real quick little applaud if they pick up the right toothpick. Now, they must pick up the toothpick. It cannot be just touching it. They have to pick it up. Is everyone clear about that? So what's the form of feedback we're going to give people? Good. Anything else is not acceptable. You will not help them if you give them any other form of feedback. All right, so if you want feedback, you can raise your hand, and if there are people that have solved it nearby, they will come over and they will help you.
So if they lift one,
If they lift the correct one, you will applaud.
do we continue to applaud?
Only if they lift another correct toothpick.
Right, so we can continue.
This puzzle can be solved in 24 seconds with feedback. It only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback. The universe rewards action. Thinking is not required to solve this puzzle. The only thing required to solve this puzzle is taking action. This puzzle can be solved in 24 seconds with feedback. The universe rewards action. Thinking is not required. If you want feedback, raise your hand. This puzzle can be solved in 24 seconds with feedback. Thinking is not required. The universe rewards action. Thinking is not required. It only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback. Thinking is not required. Only 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback. The only thing required to solve this puzzle is action. 24 seconds is all that's required to solve this puzzle. James, start over. Go right back to the beginning and start over. Carol, you can't get there from here. Start over from the beginning. It only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback. Melissa, did you solve it?
I did.
Okay, good. If you need feedback, raise your hand. Other people can gather around those who are still working on it. Give them feedback. Only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle. Thinking is not required. What's required is action. Remove one toothpick at a time. Thinking is not required. It only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback. The universe rewards action. It only takes 24 seconds to solve this puzzle with feedback.
I'm not a puzzle guy. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm not a puzzle guy at all, as Joanne will attest to that. I don't know if you've seen those triangles where you have to hop the little picks over and you end up with 2. You're a genius level. I think the best I've got is 4. And even when I get there, as I was saying to Kevin, I can never remember how I got there. But when you put this up on the board, and I didn't see the gorilla yesterday either, but when you put this up on the screen, even before we started, I was looking at it and boom, it just hit me. Mm-hmm. Like it was done before we started. And so that shows me that, you know, just possibly things are opening up.
Things are opening up.
I'm starting to see things.
Starting to see. Okay, good, Terry. Thank you.
I wanted to give advice whether or not it was solicited.
You wanted to give advice whether or not it was asked for. Does that kind of feel familiar?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And when you're giving advice when it's not asked for, do you think it might not be as useful as you're seeing that now? Okay, very good, Tanya. Thank you. Give her a hymn. Catherine?
Thank you. I have something really exciting to share. Soon is a beautiful person I met a few days ago, and she's a math and computer whiz, and we were at lunch, and she was telling me that her dream is to somehow get into brain research. And we were chatting, and as we were walking back, I said, well, have you found anybody? Have you asked? And she sat next to me on the floor, and I'm not sure, but she may have been the first person to solve the puzzle just based by your walking by to mess it up. And then she helped me, and I looked at her and I said, you need to be in brain research.
Okay, thanks. Good. Let's see. Oh, good. Everyone, stand up for a minute soon so we can handle this because it's been a request. Everyone put your hands down for just a moment. She's very interested in getting into the area of brain research and just is looking for resources. Anyone you might know that's into that field, any research that's available, any people doing that work, any place where she might go and study that work. So if you know anything about that, come up to her at lunch or whatever and handle that. Would you do that? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Betty?
Thank you. I'm not a puzzle person. So when you said this, I said, oh no, I'm going to be here forever. And then I thought, hey, I can ask my inner self. So I said, inner self, would you please solve this for me? And poof, I saw it.
So this statement, I'm not a puzzle person, can we leave that behind?
Oh yeah, it's gone.
Okay,
Thank
so what
you.
can you say now?
I can solve puzzles. I can rely on my inner self to help me with whatever I need.
Okay, very good. Pass it down to Zach.
I'm not a very macho guy, and but I absolutely am repulsed and hate the word cute. I hate it. But how fucking cute is Ivan?
I loved watching it. He just hung in there. Ivan, you want to respond to that? We'll give Ivan the mic. Where's the mic over there? It's coming down. Just keep waiting. They'll put it in your hand.
What kind of cute was that?
Not really a response so much, but you motivated me to stand up and say stuff. This was a pretty awesome lesson for me. Jack came by and said, essentially, I'm going to sort of paraphrase how it sounded in my head. Jack said, what are you doing? Why are you trying to figure this out still when all you have to do is pick up toothpick after toothpick until people clap? That wasn't how he said it. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good point, Jack. So the thing that I learned is that even when help is right in front of you, my tendency is to want to still figure it out for whatever reason. And I had a bunch of people around me that were perfectly willing to help and able to help. And but I still wanted to figure out, let's see, which toothpicks do I get rid of? So this was very awesome. Thank you guys, all of you that helped me, and all of you that watched and cheered on. Thank you.
I had a great experience. First I solved it and I waited for an assistant, and she came and she said, yeah, that's right. So I said, but weren't we supposed to destroy it? She said, yes, so I did that. And then, so it was a complete mess. Then the second assistant come over and she looked and it was all, that's not right. Yes, it is. The first one said that it was right. No. But it was right. But it was really a big mess. That's not right.
Tomas?
I started off saying I don't do puzzles well. And as soon as I heard somebody say, do they have to be the same size? I saw the answer as clear as day in my head. And solved it right away. I also found myself very comfortable in a place of going around helping people afterwards, or at least attempting to.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Roma. I loved figuring it out. I was really happy I did. I was very anxious because I don't usually do well at that. But I found it so much more fun to go and help other people. I just really got a kick out of their pleasure, and when they saw the pattern there, it was really, really fun for me. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I had someone next to me say, it's so easy, and I felt really pissed off. It's like, geez, shut up, if it's easy for you. But I realized it reminded me of my older sister who everything was so easy for her. It was hard for me, so I think that's where the anger came from. But still, it doesn't help to say it's easy. But as soon as you said, the procedure to figuring it out was so simple.
Very good. Yeah, I remember I had to learn when I was a teacher, if I told a kid something they were having difficulty with was easy, it didn't make it easier for them, it made them feel more stupid. Because if it's easy, how come I'm having such a hard time with it? Therefore, there must be something wrong with me. So that's a good insight in terms of giving feedback. Yes. Wait for the mic.
I found myself thinking there has to be a simple, not an easy, but a simple solution. And I was really excited to find out what it was. And I'm owning that thought because it's going to be an absolute godsend as I solve business problems. There will be a simple answer. There will be a simple way through this.
Okay, thanks. Norbert?
I've gained an important insight. I thought I could never do that. And I sat there and I really couldn't. And then you offered help and somebody came and I picked up one, no. And then I started to figure out again and I picked up another, no applause. And I started to figure out again. And then you said, it can be done in 24 seconds. And then it hit on me. You just have to get feedback and do it. And that's what I often tend to do, to get things done. And when I'm stuck, I figure out. And thank you for that insight.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Colorado. I felt this internal struggle because I saw people around me getting it done quick. It's like, shit, I'm not going to be able to do this. And so then when you started saying that, it was still very difficult for me to take the feedback. And I think, I can't remember his name, but I kept looking at him. Where is he? Siam? I don't know his name. Anyway, I kept looking at him. He would applaud. And it just felt like I was forcing this monster out of my chest. Like, leave me be, let me just figure this out. So it was kind of painful, actually, to let myself appreciate the feedback, take it in, and then have action from it. So it's a huge lesson.
What can you do in your life? How could this show up for you outside of this room? What could you do differently?
I could, ask for feedback. I didn't really want his feedback, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, ask for feedback, and then when I get it, listen to it.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Well, in the beginning I was thinking maybe an average puzzler or better or what. Then came this high self-esteem exercise and I said, well, I give myself a 7. And I said, well, I can't decide what I give myself, so I give myself a 10. In that moment I looked up, 1 second later looked at 10 and all 8 disappeared immediately.
Isn't that interesting?
That was a big aha. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Lorraine. It was a very interesting exercise for me because my tapes from childhood were that you were stupid. And I felt very stupid because I couldn't do it. And I knew I had a block because I felt stupid. So it was like this circle. And when I was receiving the feedback, at first it was very difficult for me to even move one because I wanted to do it on my own, because that's generally the way I've always done it. But then when I finally got it, it was good, but I still didn't feel real good. And so Terry and I did the Sedona method, and it really helped. It's not gone, as you can see, but it really did help a lot.
Mm-hmm. So let's just take this for a minute and play with it. It's impossible to feel stupid.
Right.
It's not a feeling. Like, where do you feel stupid in your body?
In my stomach.
And what do you feel there that you're calling stupid?
A rock.
A rock. Okay. So you can feel a tightness in your stomach, but you can't feel stupid. What produces the rock is the thought, I'm stupid. So the thought precedes the feeling. So what could you change the thought to?
I'm smart.
Yeah. So look at a few people and just say, I'm smart.
I'm smart.
So make eye contact with someone else and just make the statement to them.
I'm smart.
What else? Pick
I'm
another
smart. I'm smart. I'm very smart.
Smart enough to get here, smart enough to do the exercise, smart enough to let in this system, smart enough to have the awareness, smart enough to stand up and share it. A lot of smart. Yeah. And a lot of what we do is we get into a situation, we think we're not smart enough to do it, and we freeze. Any of you have that experience? Just kind of froze? Yeah. So look, raise your hand again. I want you to see you're not the Lone Ranger here. Okay? And we've all had that wounding that comes from a school experience, a parent, another kid, you know, you're stupid. Or we decided inside without even people telling us because it's easy for them and it's more difficult for us. And we'll generalize from one thing, like calculus, and think we're stupid in every arena of our life or whatever. So the real smart thing to do here is to simply ask for and allow in the feedback. And many of you have had a major breakthrough in that arena, just in a simple little exercise. It'll be easier for you. So,
thank you.
Give her a hand. Howard?
I'm Howard. I had a big breakthrough because I thought at the very beginning I had a disadvantage over everybody else. I had done this before, and I'd seen it a couple years ago, and immediately I thought I knew how to do it, and I had to remember how to do it, and I couldn't remember how to do it, and I wasn't getting it right. And what I really realized was that I deal a lot of my life that way. I'm not in the present moment. And when I got in the present moment, it became clear.
Very good. Thank you. Yep, that's you, dear.
What was interesting, I learned so much about myself, and Colleen helped me. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out because I'm a psychologist. I should know the answer to this. and this experiment is so great. When Colleen gave me the clue, you're not giving me a chance to give you feedback because you're taking more than one at a time. And so I said, oh, okay. And I picked up one, she clapped. I picked up another, and she clapped. And I thought, I get it. And I picked up all the way around. Now, what was amazing was, my God, I've spent my whole life doing this. And what clicked in was immediately your comment, Jack, about how people who are successful do psychometric measures to see how they're doing. And so this school psychologist who does psychometrics on everybody else has avoided getting effective feedback by not doing it on what I'm doing. And from now on, I'm going to check to see how I'm doing every step of the way.
Good for you.
And just enjoy it. Thank you.
Just close your eyes for a minute and just repeat after me. It's okay, not to know. Let's say that 2 more times. It's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. Okay, you can open your eyes. When you leap into that void that Michael Gerber was talking about last night, you don't know. But if you leap in and you pay attention to the feedback, some of it will be internal, some of it will be external, some you can solicit, some will come unsolicited. And you pay attention to it, things get a lot easier. See, we're making it way too hard. I think if that's been an underlying message here, it doesn't have to be as hard as most of us have been making it. It can be a little more effortless, flows in a little easier. Let's take 2 more people and then we have to move on. Mainly picking on people I haven't heard from yet. You?
I'm Kerry. Hello, I'm Kerry from Sydney, and I ran the same 2 patterns I always run. I did the whole identity thing. I'm not a puzzle person. I never fix this. Anytime there's a puzzle, I never fix it. When you do all the psych tests, I'm a recruiter, so I'm often handing them out to everybody else. I say, don't worry about it. I don't psych well either. It's okay. And so I did the whole identity thing. I'm not a puzzle solver. And then when you said, okay, get feedback, I'm like, I'm in. It's all over, because that's what I did. When I started being a recruiter, I was really slow. I didn't make a lot of money at it. And then I basically went and said, what are you good at? 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 And I modelled the best at what everybody was good at. They're good at cold calling. They're good at managing clients. They're good at closing. They're good at whatever it was. And I got good at everything. Now I make a freaking fortune doing it. And I'm going to teach other people, develop the system and teach everybody else how to do it.
Good for you.
So, but the whole thing is I ran the same 2 patterns. All right, somebody's going to give me feedback, listen in, and just model the best. The girl beside me got it done like that. So I'm like, come and help me, because I want to get it done quick too. I mean, why struggle when you don't have to? Go and ask somebody who can tell you how to do it. Why reinvent the wheel? Screw that. Give me the wheel. I'll go use it, you know? And so and when you get rewarded for listening to the feedback and getting it done quick, life takes on a whole different ball game when you do that. And I was sitting next to Ivan, so my first thoughts were, Ivan's going to get this done before me. That was my first pattern, like, here we go, I'm not a puzzle person, he's going to get it done. And as soon as you said feedback, I'm like, it's done.
Good, thanks, Kerry.
Listen to the feedback.
Stand up. Battle of the microphones.
One important message I got out of this is, like, you should not compare yourself to others. Somebody got it done before you did, you know, just let it go.
Very good.
To resume listening to this course on audio CD, please go to CD number 37.
There was a man named Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. Did any of you read that book? There's an African-American psychologist by the name of Dennis Kimbrough wrote Think and Grow Rich in Black Choice. Did any of you read that book? Recommend it, even if you're not black. Because he's a very modern psychologist who took Napoleon's original ideas, and even though he's using examples of African-American businesses and so forth, it's a much more sophisticated book, in my opinion. One of the things that Napoleon Hill taught, and that W. Clement Stone taught me, was the power of the mastermind. We've all heard the phrase, wherever 2 or more are gathered, there also am I. And literally there is a mastermind. It's what Michael Gerber was referring to when he said, you know, it just comes through. It's what, when we meditate and we get those ideas, you know, they're coming through our higher consciousness, through our high self, but they're coming from a larger field of consciousness. And when we gather together with the common intention, as we've done here this week, and as you can do, $5 more. You should have a little slide. These are the children of Bali, thank you, every time I'm playing goes up. Second book title is Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. Dennis Kimbrough, Kimbrough. I'm actually going to be speaking with him at a conference coming up this fall. I'm looking forward to meeting him. I've read 2 of his books. I think he's a brilliant writer. Anyway, the couple of things about masterminds, and then we're going to practice. I want you to practice one. How many of you are currently in a mastermind group? Let's start that. Okay, quite a number of you. That's great. How many of you have been in a mastermind group but are no longer in a mastermind group? Yeah. We'll talk about some of the reasons masterminds fall apart and don't continue to be effective. But the basic idea is when you get together with a group of people and you meet regularly, some people meet every week, some people meet once a month, some people meet every 2 weeks. As I mentioned, some people meet on the phone weekly or monthly and then get together quarterly or twice a year in person. And focus on your intentions and your goals. It's just another way of staying focused, staying motivated, and also opening up to you lots and lots and lots of resources and networks that could be available to you. Every time I go to my mastermind group, I end up walking out with like 4 books I should be reading, 5 websites I need to know about, some marketing guy that I need to find out what he's doing, etc. And so it's just a lot of things that go on. Sometimes your mastermind group starts with a very business purpose, and sometimes people come in and say, you know, my son just got arrested for marijuana use last night, and I'm absolutely fried as to what to do about it. And it takes a personal turn. And that can be very, very valuable. I have a friend, John Dealey, who's been in a mastermind group for over 20 years down in Dallas, Texas. And has been through everything with that. One of the guys I write about in my book was in John's mastermind group. One of the key principles of success is find the need and fill it. When Adolfo was talking, he was talking about make sure there's a market and that you're in touch with the market and the needs of the market and the preferences of the market. And this guy literally was selling labels for Avery Label Company. Some of you may have read about him in my book. And some people said, you know, could you make a stickier label? Because it falls off when they get moist. And he said, what are you doing with them? Well, we're putting them on the sides of trays of lasagna. The ones we bake on Monday, we put Monday on them. The ones we bake on Tuesday. So we use the Monday ones before the Tuesday ones. But the condensation in the refrigerator, they're coming off. Another restaurateur said, well, we put them on our vegetables when they come in. So we know what, we want to use the oldest ones first so that we keep some semblance of freshness going. And so he went home, asked Avery if they would do that, if they'd print names of the week on them, and if they'd make a sticky label. He said, no, they didn't want to do that. So he went in his garage and developed a better glue and started printing them, little circles with Monday, M-O-N, Tuesday, T-U-E. And last year he sold his company called Day Dots for tens of millions of dollars. He makes millions of Day Dots a day. They use them all throughout the world. And then he developed other things to help restaurants. And he just wanted to make enough money to put his kids in private school. And he made enough to retire multi-wealthy forever the rest of his life. But he found a need that was there, and instead of saying, no, we're not going to do that, he said, okay, we'll give you what you want. And he was in John's mastermind group. And I met him through that, and he'd been there for 5 or 6 years. He had raised money to develop his company and so on and so forth. So masterminds can open you up to lots of possibilities. How many of you have formed a group? You're in a group, you've formed it here, and you're happy with the group you have? And how many of you are not yet in a group, or you have a partial group, or? Okay, good. We're not totally clear what? Where the group stands. Okay, well, we'll help you get some clarity. So what we're going to do in this exercise is I'm going to get you into groups. If you already have a group, you'll form that. If you're not, and we'll have you stand up and hook up with other people. And we may not have enough time, given where we are in the day, to spend 45 minutes hooking everybody up so that you've got the perfect group in terms of geography and so forth. The main thing I'm concerned about is you have an experience of going through it, for those of you who haven't, and for those of you who've been in one or are starting one, or you now have one that you're going to work with, that you connect with each other and that you have a practice run at it. The biggest thing that messes up mastermind groups, in my opinion, is they don't follow the rules. Now, rules can evolve, and you can have different rules, and different people have written about this, do it a little differently. But my experience is that when you go through the model that I teach, what happens is that they work and they last. And the biggest problem is if everyone doesn't get time, they fall apart. Because certain people hog the show, and other people don't, then they just stop coming because they're not getting value. So when we do ours, we meet for, if we're meeting for an hour and there's 6 of us, we each get 10 minutes. If we're meeting for 2 hours, we each get 20. When we get together quarterly for 2 days, we each get several hours to focus on what we're doing. We revisit our goals, we look at our annual commitments, we look at our monthly commitments, we share what we're working on, we share our successes, we look at what our stretches are going to be, we ask for resources, we ask for help, and then we always end with appreciations. And we always start with new and what we call new and good. What are our successes? What's new and good? Something I learned about quantum physics just a week ago was really cool. When you take a negative and a positive and you put them together, they collapse in on each other and create light. Like I forget all the exact terms, but like a neutron and an electron, or a positron and a negatron, whatever. They come together and they collapse in on each other and they create light. So when you have people in a negative headspace and you bring in a positive focus, the positive and the negative collide together and they create light. It creates an open space. They integrate up and synthesize. So it's always a good thing when people come together to focus on something positive, changes the entire space, really enlightens the space. So I think what I want to do is say a couple of things. When you go home, if you don't have a mastermind group and you want one in your hometown, ask yourself, who would I like to hang out with? When I first introduced this at an NLP conference, we were doing a one-day pre-conference up in Colorado, and I had a guy stand up and he said, well, all the people I want in my mastermind group, there's no way they'd ever join. And I said, why not? He says, well, I'm not anybody and they're all somebody. I said, well, what do you do? He said, I'm a psychologist. Well, who would you like in your group? Well, I'd like the head of the VA hospital. You know, he's an MD psychiatrist. I'm only a psychologist. They kind of look down on psychologists. And he said, but he's really a cool guy. I said, who else? Well, there's a guy that has a radio show. He's kind of like a radio psychologist, you know, kind of like Dr. Laura, that kind of thing, and gets on the phone, answers questions. And he's really smart. I'd like him in my group. He went down a list. And I said, well, go home and ask all those people. If they say no, then go to a second tier. Called me up a week later, said every one of them said yes. And I said, why? He said, great idea. We'd have never thought of it. And the point being that you may not be as high level as they are in terms of what you think financially, intellectually, celebrity-wise, but you're the one that came up with the idea of let's have a group. It's kind of like putting together a real estate investment trust. Some people don't put in any money, but they still get to play because they brought all the players in. So they get a piece of the action simply for putting it together. And the same is true. And what do you do if people say no? You say next. You know? More than likely, Bill Gates is not going to say yes to your request to be in a mastermind group. Okay? He's hanging out with Warren Buffett and people like that. Okay? So it's just, some people may be beyond reach. But the point is, you can always stretch up a level. And I always say, you know, you always stretch to the next level up. If you're making $100,000 a year, you're probably not going to hang out with billionaires. It's possible, but not all that likely. But hang out with people that are making $400,000, 100. You know, if you're a salesperson, there's people up above you. Get into relationship with them. Always keep stretching up a notch, and eventually you just keep moving. Last summer, not this summer, but a summer ago, I got to spend 4 days in a room with Bill Clinton, Hamid Karzai, Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King. There was George Lucas. There was a guy who was the producer of Chariots of Fire, Lord Putnam from England. We had, I mean, it was just a room full. I kept pinching my wife. My God, that's James Earl Jones or something. You know, it was like we just kept like flipping out. And that's who I spent 4 days with in a room just like this. And every one of us got to get up and give a 20-minute talk. There was the two guys that founded Google, Stephen Case, who founded AOL. It just went on and on. The president of Procter & Gamble, Julie Andrews. You know, I'm riding on a bus going over to hear Jose Carrera sing, sitting next to Naomi Judd. I mean, it was just unbelievable. How did I get there? I took a plane. Now, how I got there was having developed so many books and got invited to speak at the CEO conference. It's a grad group for YPO. There's a young president's organization, and they kick you out when you're no longer young. You're 50, you become an old timer, and they create a grad group. And we got to go on a tour in Tahiti, and one of the road trips for that day was to go around this island, Bora Bora, on a bicycle, which was fun. Except we got to this one side of the island, the wind was blowing at us. It was kind of like, you know, you're swimming and not moving because the current's so strong. And this one woman who was about 70 fell off her bike and really messed up her leg. She had varicose veins, and she kind of cut some of them open. And I made not a tourniquet, but a very high pressure thing with a t-shirt. And I helped walk her back all the way to the boat. And turns out her husband had endowed the business school at the University of Arizona. They were very, very wealthy. And she said, have you ever heard of the National Achievement Summit? And I said, no. She said, well, I'd like to nominate you for that. And I said, fine. Having no idea what it was. Sent her my resume. And the board of people who chose the recipients were people like Oprah Winfrey, and it was a pretty cool group. And I got to go and hang out. And it was just an acknowledgement that we were all someone who had made a difference in the world. And then they had 200 graduate students from all the finest universities on the planet, Harvard, Oxford, Yale, Duke, those kind of places, that we were to inspire to make a difference in their lives like we had made in our lives. And, you know, I'm sitting there having dinner with B.B. King and Shimon Peres. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But the point is, as you make your contribution and you keep going up, you keep moving into a higher level of people. And the other thing, I believe if I hadn't stopped and walked with her instead of going ahead with my son, that wouldn't have happened. So out of the service came something wonderful, but also I'd earned the right to have that as well. So you'll keep moving on up. Moving on. Remember that song? All righty. So what we're going to do is in a moment we're going to get into groups of 6. If you're already in a mastermind group that you've picked, then get into that group of 6. Find each other, put your chairs around. And, we have a little less room available now because we've lost that last third of the room, but you can still use the space behind the camera and so forth to spread out. If you're not in a group of 6 yet, what I'd like you to do is keep milling around and don't be so attached to you've got to have the perfect group. One of the things I learned in a seminar once was that everybody is your perfect partner. We had to go around and just sit down with people and then figure out how they would be perfect to be a partner in our life. This guy would piss me off, but he would teach me how to be centered around people I didn't like. That's not necessarily the case. But you get the idea? Or someone that was really boring. Well, okay, what is boredom? A demand on the environment to entertain me. So how can I turn this into an exciting relationship? And everyone's perfect in some way. There's no perfection other than, it's always perfect, and we are sometimes demanding it to be different than it is to call it perfect. So there's no wrong person to be in a relationship with. So we'll get the people that are already in groups of 6 in groups of 6. The rest of you, as quickly as possible, if you've got 3 people together, find 3 others, get into groups. And I'm more interested right now in practicing the process, and some of you will find that you'll want to continue with that mastermind group as well. So go ahead and find some people, get into your groups. Raise your hand if you need other people to connect with. What's going to happen is I'm going to walk you through a mock mastermind group. And the first step after you come together is what we call an invocation. You call in a higher power. And you can do that any way you want. In my mastermind group, we have 1 Buddhist, 1 Hindu, 3 Christians, and a Mormon. And a Mormon may be Christian, but thank you. But he's definitely got a different energy going than the people that are Baptists and Methodists in our group. But the point is, everyone does a different kind of invocation. One person would say, Father, Mother, God, we ask just now to be surrounded with the Christ light of the Holy Spirit and fill ourselves now and surround ourselves with that light of wisdom and love, and that our hearts be open, that we only say those things are wished for the highest good of all concerned. We ask to be guided and support, that kind of a thing. Someone else does the Lord's Prayer. Someone else just kind of goes into a state and channels whatever comes through. Someone else ask, dear God, we ask just now, and we do this in the name of Christ. And we just, whatever they do it, we say that's fine. It's just a way of calling in the spiritual energy. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to have one person, I'm going to give you like a minute, and I'll say start and I'll say stop. And I may interrupt you, before you're quite finished, but just, finish it at that point. And just so you have an experience of what it's like to have someone. And then what we do is each time we rotate, different person either calls in the light or asks for guidance or asks for God's presence or however you want to hold that. But the idea is to simply focus back in and realize there is a spiritual aspect to this as well as a material, real world aspect of this. So what I'd like you to do is ask who would like to do that. And if no one volunteers, just all point at somebody and they'll have to make it up. So I'll give you 30 seconds to decide who it is. Don't start yet. I'll tell you when to all start. So we just walk through this together. The next step is what we call new and good, positive focus. You can share a success from the last time. So what I'd like you to do here to do that would be to think about, you've been here for a week. You came with intentions, goals, things you wanted to accomplish, experiences you wanted to have. We're going to give each person a minute to talk about what was the best thing that happened for you here, the greatest thing you learned, however you want to hold that, but that's a success, what's new and good in your life. And if it comes from outside the room, we got a phone call that your first grandson was born this morning at 6 a.m., and that's the best news, and you can share that as well. We're going to have 6 minutes to do this. So the groups of 7 and 8 and whatever else there are out there, you're going to have to monitor yourself, because I'm just going to say next person after every minute, and we're going to stop at 6 minutes. So if you're in a larger group, you're going to have to do like 45 seconds and have a timer. When you do this in the real world, You will have to have a timekeeper. The timekeeper is critical to the success of the group. And the reason is, if you don't, there are the people that will talk on and 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 on. And other people won't get to talk, and then they go, well, I don't want to go there. I don't get my airtime. I don't get paid attention to. It's just human nature. So today I'll be the timekeeper. And the other thing I recommend is you rotate the timekeeper. So it's not always the same person's responsibility. What it does is it teaches everyone to become responsible for the time. And it may feel kind of mean to interrupt somebody in the middle of something, but if you don't stay on the time, you'll end up paying a huge cost in terms of the group starting to dysfunction and ultimately falling apart. All right, so whoever wants to go first, I'll say next person 6 times, and then after that we're done. So make sure you monitor yourself if you need to in terms of the group being larger than 6. Okay, so first person, go ahead and begin. The next phase normally would be to do a time negotiation. And that can work one of 2 ways. You can just equally divide the time among everyone equally in the group. However, sometimes that doesn't work. Someone might come in and say, you know, I just found out I'm being sued for $2.5 million in back taxes, and I really need some help. And the rest of you are just dealing with things that don't seem as big, and you might want to give that person a little more time. Or they might be dealing with a major personal issue. They just found out they were diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. Or their comptroller just walked off the job and took all the money, you know, whatever. So you can negotiate and say, well, I want 5 minutes. Someone might say, I just need 2 minutes. I just want to read a letter I wrote and get feedback from you guys as to how you might fix it. Or someone might say, here's my brochure. I'd like you all to look at it and give me any feedback about how I might improve it. Someone else might say, I want to give a sales speech for 8 minutes, a presentation I'm planning, and I'd like to get feedback on how to improve it. Someone else might say, I'd like to have you guys brainstorm with me 10 ways I could open up an overseas market, or how I could find resources on the internet in terms of marketing my product internationally through the internet. Someone might say, I just have 8 questions I want to ask and see if any of you know answers, or books or tapes or resources you could refer me to. So everyone will have different needs when you come to the group. And so normally you would just, you know, decide how you're going to divide up the time so it's predictable and everybody knows. And it's critical that you stick to the time schedule. I mean, there can be a minute of slough if somebody needs to kind of wrap up or having some feelings or something. But in general, it's a very slippery slope to go down if you don't keep the time commitments. What we're going to do here today, simply because we have all of these people here, we need to keep our structure together. I'm going to just give you each 5 minutes to use the group. And some options for you guys would be, look, here you've got your vision, you've got your goal statements, you've got your affirmations, you've got some decisions you've made about how you want to do things in your life. And how could you use the group to support you? Mark and I have a term that I think we got from an organization called IBI, Income Builders International, when we used to teach there. And it's called plussing an idea. So you might say, I'm thinking of opening a camp for kids in the Poconos. And we go, well, what's going to happen for it the rest of the year? It's just going to sit there idle? You know, my idea is you could open a school, or you could have a retreat center, or you could, you know, so you're plussing, you're adding on to the idea. So you might just ask people to kind of give you some ways to improve your concept. You might ask for resources. You know, I'm wanting to start a healing center in Hawaii. And I don't know anyone in Hawaii, but I just feel drawn. Do you know anyone I could talk to there? Or do you know anyone who's got some land? Or, you know, whatever it is. So the idea would be you can use this group for 5 minutes for anything you want. So think about, what would you like to ask them for? Brainstorming, feedback, support, networking, share an idea with them, you know, ask them for direction to help form the idea some more, to whatever it might be. So just close your eyes for a minute, if you would, and think about what you'd like to ask the group to do for you in that 5 minutes. Normally when you come together the first time, at least whenever I form a new mastermind group, we spend the first meeting just everyone being very clear about what their goals are, so the group knows. And then as they're thinking about it, you know, we write it down, or we capture it on a computer and we print it out and email it to everybody. So everyone's holding whatever people's goals are so that we know how to support them. Because if I don't know what your goals are, I can't support you. So you may want to just share your goals with the group. You may want to ask specific questions. You may ask for support. It's really your call, whatever you want to do. I'll shut up for 30 seconds and let you think on that. Okay, you can open your eyes. And whoever'd like to start, you can. Remember, groups of 7 or 8, you're going to have to adjust time-wise a little bit. I'm going to give you exactly 5 minutes per person. In the real world, you'll probably have more like 10 minutes a person, or if you get together for 2 hours, you'll have 20 minutes a person. But just to get a taste of it. So first person, it's your turn. Whoever that decides to be, go ahead and begin. Now, the last stage of this, well, it's not the last stage. I want each of you to go around, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds apiece. It's not a long time. But I'll give you a minute to contemplate it before we do it, is to commit to action steps that you're going to do, so that when you come back to your next mastermind meeting, you get to be held accountable. And these action steps should be something that will move forward your vision, your goal, whatever you were talking about wanting to achieve, personal, professional. And should be something that feels like a little bit of a stretch. In other words, it was something that was already on your to-do list. It's not really a new one. It's not something that came out of the group. So it should be a stretch to the level that it gives you a little bit of discomfort, but it doesn't freeze you. Like if we do too big a stretch, just is too impossible. But if we do something that's a little beyond what we think, we keep building that self-confidence level. And so what I'd like you to do is to just close your eyes for a moment. Think inside, what would you be willing to commit to do that you wouldn't have done if you weren't in this mastermind group and having shared the things you just shared? Or if that's too small a limiting time, just something you wouldn't have done unless you'd been here at the seminar that you now intend to do. Something you'll commit to as an action step. And normally it's to commit to it by the time we meet again. And I'm going to suggest that all of you communicate with each other in your group within a month, max. 2 weeks would be preferable. And I'll give you a few moments at the end to set up a time and how you're planning to do that and so forth. But for now, just think of what would you be willing to commit to do, let's say in the next 2 weeks. So when you get home, or back to work, that will move forward this goal or vision that you've been talking about. Okay, then you can open your eyes. As I said, I'll do 30 seconds a person. If you're in a group of 7 or whatever, do 20 seconds, but get it done. So first person, 2 things you'll commit to doing by the 2 weeks from now when you would talk again. Go ahead and begin. Okay, just 2 steps left. The next step is to appreciate each other. And there's a number of ways to do it. You can do it like we did, where we did the strength bombardment, and everyone gets a minute to be the focus. Or you can do it where you go around and everyone gets to be the person for a minute that says what they appreciate about people in the group or the group in general. So since we've already done it where we received, focused one at a time, we'll try the other way. And so I'm going to give you each 45 seconds to simply tell anyone in the group or the group in whole what you appreciate. I appreciate that suggestion. I appreciate you opening up your Rolodex to me. I appreciate you being willing to, come over and look at my house, whatever it might be. And I'll say next person every 45 seconds. Again, the groups that are larger, accommodate, readjust time-wise. Okay, so whoever wants to go first, you can begin. You have 45 seconds. One last thing, and all mastermind groups need to do this, is you have to decide when you are going to meet again and how. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to figure that out. Let me have your attention. Shh. One last thing. If you figure it out really quickly, I'll give you another assignment, and that is come up with a name for your group. Come up with a name for your group. It's really cool. Okay, go ahead and begin. You got 2 minutes. All right. Now, what I want you to, I'm going to talk a few minutes about going home real quick. And you can come get these mics. There you go. My son Kyle can actually juggle mics, 3 mics at a time, and sing in them at the same time. Is that cool? Kid blows me away. All right. Number 1. kind of David Letterman's top 10 list. Number 10. Do not go home and try to give the people at home this seminar in an hour and a half. Okay? It won't work. Number 2, do not go home and say, Jack says, because after about 10 times of that, they will hate you.
These people didn't check out their rooms, and they need to.
Okay. So don't do Jack says, Jack this, Jack that. You know, they'll just get really ticked off at you, or they'll hate me in the process as well. Someone once said, a friend of mine was a teacher over in India, and one of his students came home and wrote to him and said, every time I talk about Buddhism, my parents hate me. Every time I act like the Buddha, they love me. You could say the same thing. Every time I try to proselytize people about Christianity, they hate me. Every time I act like Christ, they love me. So be the training, be the result. Show up as who you've become and who you are becoming and what you are now radiating out, perhaps. And some of you won't even realize how different you are until you get home. I remember I went to my first seminar, literally first seminar I've attended, and I got home and I went to hug my boss on Monday. And he was very open to it. But what was really interesting, I realized my arms were sore because I'd never used muscles in this way so much in one weekend, you know. Ask people permission to hug them. Would you like a hug? Could I offer you a hug? Rather than just walking up to people. I noticed someone walked up to Michael Gerber this morning and just started to hug him, and he was standing there like this. You know, and think about it. If you're not someone who's used to hugging people that you don't know that well, maybe you only hug your own children and your relatives and so forth, it feels a little overwhelming to have someone just walk up and throw their arms around you. So it's really important to think about that one as well. Now, if you go home and you are the person that you are becoming and you use all these processes and the releasing methods and so forth, people will be attracted to you. As you've heard, you will attract people into your life now that are more open to the level that you're actualizing, whatever that is, whatever you brought in, whatever you're taking home. The other thing is to remember the people at home who have supported you in being here. You know, maybe your husband or your wife's been holding down the fort as a single parent with 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a, cat or something. And it's really nice to appreciate them when you go home. And it's also really good to just listen. You've got so much stuff you want to share. And then we did, you wouldn't believe it, and then I had, then this person, all that stuff. Now some of you have been talking on the phone, so you're kind of going through all that. But it's really helpful to listen to the fact that the toilet backed up, the guy didn't come to fix the, all that stuff that may seem very mundane to you, but it's their world. And as Marcia taught or teaches, I don't know if she said everything, but when you're communicating, if my hands are full and you're trying to put stuff in my hands, there's no place to receive it. So if you allow them to empty out and just hear what they're saying, oh, and that happened, yeah, reflect back what you heard, then eventually they'll get empty. And then they're ready to take in what you're sharing. So it's very valuable to listen. People will come up and they'll ask you for, what happened to you? Feel free to tell them. But remember what Marcia taught? It's a conversation. Notice what's going on out there. Pause every once in a while to see if you've filled them up too much. Okay? So give them space to integrate all that. I want to encourage you, what we'll be giving you when you hand in your evaluation form, 3 of the closed eye processes that we did here will be on a CD. They're recorded live here, okay? And I know the life purpose exercise is on here, the disidentification exercise, I have a body, I'm not my body. And I believe the on-eye hue light meditation where we did the light, that may not be the exact, but there are 3 on there. And so you can use those. And a good resource if you're into meditation and you want to accelerate it, there's something called Centerpoint. You can go on and look for HoloSync, HOLOSYNC. Anyone here do the HoloSync work? Look around. Notice how much better they look than the rest of you? No, just kidding. Just kidding. But it's a very powerful tool that a friend of mine named Bill Harris developed. And you can go online and purchase the CDs, and you just listen to them, and they take you into some very high states. But I want to encourage all of you to find some form of meditation practice and to do it, and do it on a regular and consistent basis. Remember to visualize. Do your visualization every day. Say your affirmations, do your visualization. If I could only leave you with one thing, it would be to be clear about what you want and keep focused on it by visualizing it in your mind's eye. The third thing would be keep your thinking positive. And the fourth would be take action. Those alone will get most of you moving farther than you ever have. And then if you respond to feedback, which we saw, and then persist, which Rudy was so wonderful in teaching us about and showing us today with a wonderful film, you're home free. All right. Law of vibration, as much as you can stay in gratitude, make a list, what you're grateful for, do a little prayer every day saying what you're grateful for. The more you can stay in joy, positive expectation, positive thinking, the better off you're going to be. We've got all kinds of tools to do that. You've learned victory log, mirror exercise, appreciating people. The more of that you do, the more your vibration says, I'm ready for things to match that. Abundance. People coming into my life. Make sure you meet with your mastermind group. Only takes one person to keep it alive. One person's commitment to call people up and say, hey, remember we're doing it, or send out an email and keep everyone going. It'll be worth the commitment. Keep taking action. And, really good, we didn't talk about this, but I want to just throw it in here. If you can create one new success habit a quarter, every 3 months develop one new success habit. Drink 10 glasses of water a day, go for a run, go to the gym like Chaz and the guys. Invest 20% of your income, read a book a day, whatever it is. Each quarter put in one new habit. In 5 years, you'll have 20 new habits. That can transform your life forever. So think about what's one new habit you can form every quarter. That's been a real valuable one for me. Remember to ask for what you want. Something we didn't talk about, but you're all doing here is a little technique I call tell the truth faster. Tell the truth faster. Can't always tell it immediately. Tell the truth faster. One person here told me last night they were thinking they might not want to continue their marriage. And they told their spouse that today. And he said, there's one thing you've never done. You've never loved me unconditionally just the way I am. Could we just try that before you decide you don't want to be with me anymore? And in the process, maybe you could confront that maybe you don't love you unconditionally just the way you are. And this person said, wow, that was a revelation for me. Now, if she hadn't told him that, he wouldn't have told her that, and they'd still be stuck in the old place they were. Now, one recommendation I make that grows out of that little anecdote is I recommend you not make any major changes for a minimum of 2 weeks. So don't quit your job. Don't get divorced. Don't leave your children in Las Vegas and drive off. Okay? Don't sell your company. Don't go out and buy an $8 million home. If it's a good idea 2 weeks from now, it'll be a good idea 2 weeks from now. But sometimes in the high of this, and the other thing I would say is don't marry anyone in the seminar for at least 2 weeks. Okay? Because in this place of, I know, that was a symbolic marriage, I think. There can be what we call a training high, a euphoric state that really is the result of all of us, not just two of us together. So if it's still something you want to do 2 weeks from now, fabulous. Now, if you were already planning to quit your job next week or planning to get married next Wednesday, then obviously go ahead and do that. But I'd like you not to make any radical life shift for 2 weeks. And after that, if it still feels like a good idea, go for it. But, this has never happened in our group, but I've seen people go off to meet a spiritual teacher, meditate for 9 days, sign over all of their wealth, literally, sign over everything, including their mother's wedding ring and the heirlooms that have passed on. And then 2 weeks later go, oh my God, what have I done? And they never got it back. So you get the idea of what I'm asking you not to do. Don't do anything radical. You can put it on hold for 2 weeks. A question or comment, Sayam? Yeah, bring him a mic real quick. This will be the last comment too, because we'll just.
Thank you, Jack. I just wanted to comment.
Email you.
It feels like an echo. I just wanted to comment on the last thing. I deal with like 500 people a year in like groups in like these groups, and it's very important that you don't do things in 2 weeks. But at the same time, in a few occasions, people need this strength to really get out of it, because in 2-3 weeks, some other people are really back. I have understood in their old patterns. So
I hear what you're saying.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you really need this high to get out of this bloody shit relationship you waited 17 years to get out of. So I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. I hear you. Thank you for that. Okay. So, what we're going to do now is you're going to find a partner, preferably someone from your group, but not every group has an even number. And then you're going to sit opposite that person. You'll need your notebooks and a pen to do this last exercise. And if you're in a group that's got an odd number, just one of you stand up and then find someone else that's standing up and go ahead and create a pair with that person from the other group. So everyone needs to be facing a partner. There you go. Okay, we're going to do an exercise which we refer to as a meditative dyad. That's a fancy term that means one of you will have your eyes closed and will be asked a question. The other person will have their eyes open. They will be asking the question. We've done this before, where you ask the same question over and over. However, this time, the person asking the question is going to write the answers down. And you're going to write them in your partner's notebook or on a piece of paper that they can take with them. So if you've got some blank paper in whatever manual you're writing in or a notebook you're writing in, you can just trade with your partner. Okay. So what'll happen, in a moment, I'll ask you to close your eyes, and I'll ask you just to take about 30 seconds to take a few deep breaths, kind of tune in below the level of our normal mind chatter down to our heart that really knows. You all have notebooks full of stuff you wrote down. You have a notebook full of all kinds of notes that I gave you, that I wrote down for you. When you go home, you'll discover some of the things that there are notes in there we did not do. We never do everything in there. There's way too much. But there are all kinds of things that give you further information to build on if you want the things we did do. But the most important things that happen to you are not what you wrote in your notebook, and they're not what I wrote in that notebook. They're what occurred to you and you experienced and became little shifts of awareness and consciousness. Not that the other is not important, but this is more important. And as a way to capture that, one person will ask the question, what did you learn? And you'll sit there with your eyes closed when it's your turn to answer, and you'll say whatever comes up. I'll just do it myself for a minute. What did you learn? I learned not to make lots of agreements with people about making announcements in front of the group. I'm going to let all that happen on the bulletin boards next year. What did you learn? I learned that I need to plan a little more completely before I come so I can go to bed earlier each night. What did you learn? I learned I love having my wife Inga here with me, especially the last few days when I was feeling tired. She really lifted me, and I want to do that again in the future, make sure she is here, because it doesn't always happen that we do that. What did you learn? I learned at a very deep level how much I need and appreciate all the people who assisted me in this seminar, that there's just so many things to be done to make all this work, and that I really want to appreciate them more deeply than I have yet. What did you learn? I learned that I want to build in time for exercise when I do this next time. What did you learn? I learned that I want to have an afternoon off and then maybe an evening session, or maybe have a whole afternoon and evening where people can just rest, go to town, do whatever they want to do. What did you learn? I learned that I really, really, really love this work. What did you learn? You know, it just goes on. Whatever comes, I just went inside and let what comes come. So that's what you'll be doing. And your partner will be writing that down. Now, when you're writing, ask them the question again. Don't just sit and write for 10 minutes and then say, what did you learn? They're kind of waiting. When's the next question coming? So you capture the essence of it. You don't have to write down every single word they said. You know, spend more time with my children, kind of thing. And we'll do this for a few minutes each direction, just to kind of pop in to see what the core learnings are here. And then you'll have that. And I'll work with the second question with you. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because you'll start thinking about that. So you'll each have 2 questions. And we'll do the first question both ways, and we'll stop. Actually, we'll do both questions with the same person first, and then we'll switch roles. So what I'd like you to do is sit facing each other, get close enough so you can hear. And Ivan, where's Ivan? Raise your hand. We got an assistant over there that's going to write. Someone. So can we get an assistant to sit in so when it's Ivan's turn to be asking, they can write for him, for their partner? Okie dokie. Okay, so everyone close your eyes. Actually, open them again real quick. Decide who's partner A and who's partner B. Decide who's A and who's B. Shh. Who's A, who's B? Okay, now close your eyes. Shh. And with your eyes closed, just take a moment to settle in. Feel the support of your chair holding your body up, the support of the floor. Take a moment to focus on your breathing. Notice, again, the rise and fall of your stomach and your chest. Breathe deeply down into your stomach as well as your chest. Take a few deep breaths. And there's a part inside of you that we call your heart, your inner knower, your wisdom, your high self, your inner child, that really knows what's true for you, has always known what's true for you, knows what's of higher value, knows what's of greater importance. So partner A, you're going to keep your eyes closed, and partner B, you will open your eyes. You'll start by asking the question, what did you learn? When your partner answers, you'll say, what did you learn? When they answer, you'll say, what did you learn? And just keep writing down what they say. So go ahead and begin. What did you learn? Here's the new question. What will you do? So we know what you've learned. What will you do as a result of what you've learned? But you just ask the question, what will you do? Let's just see what comes up to the top of the consciousness. So go ahead and begin with the question, what will you do? Well, we've come to the end of our seminar. I know it's been an exciting and educational, informative experience for you. I want to congratulate you for getting to the end of this whole thing. And I want to let you know that there's going to be a period of time now where you'll be integrating this. If you haven't read the Success Principles book up till this point, I want to strongly encourage you to do that. I want you to go through each chapter, and you'll see that all the principles we've been talking about in this seminar are contained in that book. But what you've just experienced is a deeper, transformational integration into the core and cellular structure of your being of those principles. So congratulations, you're now a graduate. I hope you had a great time. Look forward to magical changes that will just keep occurring in your life, and have a great life.
Congratulations on your commitment to you and completing this program. To learn about how you can work side by side with Jack at the next Breakthrough to Success live event, be sure to visit breakthroughtosuccess.com. The Canfield Trading Group offers a wide variety of seminars, training, coaching, and learning tools to assure that you're consistently supported on your journey to success. To work one-on-one with a Canfield personal coach, visit canfieldcoaching.com. For up-to-date information on Jack's latest training tools, courses, and programs, please visit jackcanfield.com. And to see if you qualify to attend Jack's Level 2 Advanced Training, Train the Trainer program, or his Platinum Inner Circle group, contact 805-563-2935, extension 12. Now is your time to break through to your success.